Yeah. So we're going to be looking at the origins and development of the Cold War from 1943 to 1953. So over this 10-year period, we're going to see the collapse of a Grand Alliance and turning into two Cold War rivals. We'll see how that plays out. We're going to start out just with contextualization, like we always do with each unit. When we think about the Cold War, what were the events that occurred before this that really set the stage? I want to point out the age of progress led to an age of anxiety. As you see the screen behind us, I love this painting. Really explains everything for us, I think, in some ways. But that age of progress, that positivism, the idea by the 1880s, European intellectuals really felt that they're entering an age of perfection that only collapsed into anxiety with the physics revolution and the heroic age of physics. Completely new view. What was once true was no longer true. And intellectually, there was a sense of, is there a such thing as progress? The age of nation states, this rabid nationalism that we saw really take off in that late 19th century, part of that progress, people really believed their national identity was really based on that social Darwinist and even Aryan ideas, and that led us right to the First and Second World Wars. Think about how they felt. They felt powerful in 1914. By 1950, not so much. The Great Depression is a result of the Second Industrial Revolution. That age of progress of consumerism really collapsed in the 1930s. That led to a disillusionment of consumerism. So all of these elements, this idea of that reality, the material world, the idea that hey, we've got our act together, we're ready to move forward. Every aspect collapsed. And lastly, for the contextualization, I just wanted to leave this to be a special slide by itself so you can just look at this is the Second World War at the outcome. This is the Dresden, the Allies the Americans had just firebombed this area. But look at what's left. All parts of Europe was absolutely destroyed and was in desperate need of being rebuilt. Europe was a ginormous power vacuum. There's only two countries in the world that could fill it. Geographically, it's the Soviet Union, and economically, it will be the United States. And that's what's going to lead us right to the Cold War. The Cold War. And before we get to the origins, I do just want to ponder this. What was the Cold War ideologically or imperially driven? This is more for the SOLs, so make sure you take some notes here if you haven't started. But the concept of ideology, it's this idea that this is a fundamental clash of civilization between the great United States, and here you even see the Soviet, the Great Britain with us, and the evil Soviet Union. And again, I'm saying that in the context of our SOLs, Virginia SOLs. We're seeing this very patriotic history here, and it's really perceived in a way that this is a conflict of civilization. And the SOL frames it with democracy versus dictatorship, that the United States believed in self-determination, where the Soviet Union preached dictatorship. And fundamentally, the idea of what is human nature is something that's different. A little side note, clearly the United States was in support of more than just democracies, as we supported dictatorships around the world that happened to be anti-communist. But that's another story. But for our SOLs, we need to be able to say United States democracy, Soviet Union dictatorship, followed by the economic ideology, the concept of free market capitalism versus the command economy, communism. So in that sense, the SOL just, hey, this is, it's able to create a binary. And in so many ways, it's so easy for us to do that. But on the flip side, I just want to add the other perspective. Instead of fundamentally seeing it as evil versus good, good versus evil, think about this through an imperial lens. The Soviet Union had been devastated by two world wars. World War One destroyed Russia, the German invasions, all the way up to throughout Poland, and then World War Two. Think about scorched earth, the Battle of Stalingrad, the siege of Leningrad. This again, just absolutely devastating. So the Soviet security was in desperate need of a buffer zone, and the Soviet Union very narrowly focused on Europe, where the United States, they needed resources. And I need to refix this slide, but again, resources, they needed marketplaces in Western Europe, that is true. But also, they're going to expand this into Africa and Asia. Some of the worst atrocities the United States did during the Cold War will be found in both Africa and Asia. And it's all over this concept of resources. So if we're looking at it from, if we want to shift away from ideology, definitely look at it imperial and ponder that. But all of this was just to give you contextualization. I wanted to show you how the end of the 19th, the beginning of the 20th century really created collapse. And then in 1945, we can see these two different perspectives. Is the Cold War ideologically or imperially driven? With that said, I'm going to pause here